Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. You know what? It's funny. I started this video. I didn't realize it was this late. So this is going to be relatively quick. I came across this. Jeff Kuntz, my man, turned me onto this. I'm just checking my sound. Give me 1 second. Good. He turned me onto this. So this is George Knapp. George Knapp was the reporter that was to some degree instrumental in getting the information out, or helping get some of the information out with Academy to the Stars with Tom DeLonge. Now, the thing with this is he's on the inside of this somehow, and I don't quite know how he's on the inside of this. But that being said, he's been helping them release this information out. He's been the reporter in Los Angeles that wrote the story, essentially giving all the details to the new files that were released from the Pentagon, that were leaked from the Pentagon, let's say it that way. So his page has been very interesting from the standpoint of Twitter, because every so often he would tweet interesting stuff, and he's just tweeted something interesting. So a little while ago, he tweeted that yes, he's on the inside, he knows some of the information, but he can't release that information necessarily. He can't just let it all go. It's not up for him to do it. Fair enough. But he also released this, which is damn interesting. So he was having a conversation with someone, and George Knapp made the point there could be small fleet of advanced spacecraft that are ours but are not on the books that would not explain the overwhelming number of behavior of legit UFO cases. So they were having a back and forth. And in this case, the guy's kind of making the point of, like, look, is it possible that those are ours? Like, yes, the videos are nice. The palettes, yes, are seeing something. I'll give you that. And I'll even give you credit to saying, yes, there may be a craft there. But is it possible that there are craft? Let's say 20 years in advance. Is it possible that the United States military has something that's 20 years in advance of what it is now? Yes, it is. Of course it is. Technology tends to grow exponentially. I can totally see them having something that's pretty badass that we don't necessarily know about. Now, Knapp makes the point, maybe in one case, but not in the plethora of information that they have at their disposal. Not to mention the reports and everything else. Meaning, Elizondo was doing this for a period of time. This wasn't one sighting. This was multiple sightings. And they're talking about releasing that information, meaning they have more information to which they are letting go. So he kind of goes further. I mean, this pushes him a little bit, so he starts to release information. The current dribble, soon to be a flood, of UFO information coming from more than one place. It is not, in my opinion, a planned, coordinated effort. There are legit leaks coming from people that are not part of TTSA sustained effort. Lou E and TTSA are driving force, but are not alone in this. Essentially making this point that To the Stars Academy is not the only source, or not the only thing that's driving this particular leak. Meaning that there are multiple sources in the government that are pushing to get this particular subject out in the open. I have to be honest, that slightly freaks me out. Now, it freaks me out only because, not because I want the subject out in the open. I've wanted the subject out in the open for the past 10 years. The thing is, maybe 10 is too strong. 6-ish. Yeah, 6-ish. But I've wanted it out for a while. I guess the time frame is not important. I'm focusing on something that's not important. But I've become cynical in my old age. I really have. Like, I've become more of a lefty, yeah. But I've also become more cynical. Like, why are they pushing to get this out? Who's pushing to get this out? Clearly, the leaks are from something inside the government itself. When Elizondo quit and left, he immediately went to the Stars Academy, and they started working on this idea of disclosure with the information that they had at their disposal, releasing it. George Knapp is saying, look, that information is going to start coming out faster. For example, the file that they just released, what's his name, coming out showing all of the information that they were doing from the standpoint of their investigations. Elizondo coming out saying, we have the equations to alien ships. Fucking amazing. So I make the point, not to mention Elizondo is making videos talking about aliens. Like, I'm trying to get across this thing that this is a big push. This is a very big push. I've just been watching a video of Elizondo talking to MUFON. Now, to the uninitiated, so what? But to give you a little window into UFO culture for the moment, I'll be your host, your guest host. Not really a guest host, your usher maybe. And I can't even necessarily be a good usher in this because I don't know all the machinations in this. But the one thing that I have seen, or the one thing that I have to some degree understood, they were annoyed that they weren't being used in the rollout. Understand, this is a big production. Do you honestly believe $20 million is pocket change? The United States pisses away $20 million. When Donald Trump gets out of bed in the morning and he takes his first geriatric piss, $20 million up in smoke. Like, I'm trying to give you this idea of how little $20 million is from the standpoint of what the United States spends money on. So it's a comically small number. That's the first point. The second point is this rollout had been planned like a year or two prior. Cameron had been talking about this like a year or two prior. So this, to some degree, is a rollout. It's, all right, we're rolling this information out to the public and we're giving this information to the public. Great. I don't care how you do it. I just want you to do it. And I like this idea of this not being fringe, or at the very least not being ridiculously fringe. Let's say it that way. And I'm pretty sure the UFO community does too. Their issue with this is, you're excluding us. That's the way they took it. You're excluding us. Like MUFON is like, we've been doing this since the 60s. And you're rolling this out and you're not including us. You've created a fucking To the Stars Academy. What are we? What are we? What are we? You've denied us for years. And now you're rolling it out. And you're pretending like we don't exist. Like the woman you had sex with when your wife was on vacation. Bastard. So they didn't necessarily like it. Now, the interesting thing here is watching this video with Elizondo at MUFON. This is pretty amazing to watch. Like, it's somewhat of a dramatic thing. Now, granted, you don't necessarily think it's dramatic if you look at it and you don't know what the hell is taking place. But it is, to some degree, it's almost as if they're trying to say, we're trying to make peace. And we're trying to, I guess, bridge the gap. It's an odd thing to watch them do that. It's just a little strange. But Elizondo is on the stage, he's answering questions, and some of the questions he's answering are amazing. It's not that he's giving up a huge amount of information. It's more so there's an enthusiasm about some of the stuff that he's answering. And with that enthusiasm, it's like wow. A, he's right. B, he's being cagey on some of the answers. So I to some degree distrust him, if I'm being honest. And that may just be because it doesn't seem like he's being natural per se. It seems like he's putting on a presentation, which is a little bit different. And maybe he is putting on a presentation, and maybe that is his presentation face. But that presentation face to me it just looks somewhat degree fake. His enthusiasm, however, seems real. The thing that freaks me out to some degree too is this was built on the defense industry, Department of Defense. Like, when his framing of this is built around this idea of threat. There are these elements. How can we use these elements for war? That's the framing. That's literally the framing. He even goes into the framing of it, which is, how can we use the elements that we see to blow shit up and kill stuff? So that doesn't necessarily thrill me. For us getting that technology, and his enthusiasm with, we know how these things work. We see the electrostatic or electromagnetic data, we see the optical data, and we can do this in a laboratory. We just need to know how to build it on a larger scale. That freaks me out like nobody's business. So I'm not going to keep this long. This was the interesting part to the story. Is there are multiple sources trying to push information out, and both are trying to leak data. And he's making the point that this is completely uncontrolled. This is people just, for the most part, thinking, here's our chance. Push. Like, and at the mention, seeing that the media is receptive to it now, push. Essentially get that information out in the open while the media is open to taking it. So maybe they're right. I don't know how you talk about this issue without talking about what the fuck is in the passenger seat. Like, isn't that just immediately leap to fruition the moment that you say, oh my God, there's something in the air? Now, that's assuming that you don't immediately assume that, hey, those are just ours and we just didn't necessarily know the technology existed. I hold that open to be a possibility. Oh God, I mean, this is such a fuckfest. This is such a fuckfest. And you know what? It's a fuckfest on another level. If those are ours, and this, God damn it, this goes to this issue of trust. This is like the worst fucking time for this to take place. Think of how much do you trust your government? Do you trust your government not to do false flags? Now, there's going to be a percentage of the population that says, no, I don't trust my government not to do false flags. And the moment that you say their craft invading our space, meaning even if the United States government doesn't necessarily come forward and say, yes, you're right, the pressure alone that's put on this government when the information starts rolling out and media starts picking it up. New York Times, Washington Post, New York Times, Washington Post, Politico, this dribble month after month after month. At some point, a reporter is going to stand in front of the president and say, Mr. President, in the New York Times, it said they were fucking aliens. What do you have to say about this? I mean, fuck, man. You're the president of the United States. You're the king of the world. Is this true? Have you been briefed? At some point, they're going to start asking the president of the United States, what the fuck is going on? And the president is going to have to give that answer. Can you imagine Donald Trump answering that question? And answering that question, yes. Oh, man. Fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. Donald Trump is going to be the president that admits to the world that we're being visited. That would be mind-blowing. That would be utterly mind-blowing. Yeah, that'd be fucking mind-blowing. That would be fucking mind-blowing. Alright, I'm not going to keep this one. This one wasn't meant to be long. This is just kind of a heads up. I may show Elizondo's video because this video is fascinating. I mean, whatever I think of it, I'll let you make your own mind of it up. But it's fascinating. It's unlisted, which is why I'm potentially showing it on my own thing. And I may not show the whole thing, just the section that Elizondo is answering questions. There's a vigor about him in the subject that is fascinating to me. He's coming out of government, and in government he's in this kind of stiff role of sorts, and he comes out of government with this thing of, I'm not going to ask what's in the craft. That's beyond what I'm looking for. I am only looking for the craft itself. Great. Fine. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you determine whether something is a threat without knowing what the fuck is in the craft. What is the intelligence behind the thing? Otherwise, how do you tell whether it's a threat or not? But, okay, he's a Superman. He can do that. He can parse his brain in a way where he doesn't necessarily inquire as to what's in the craft, but he still can discern the motives of the craft. But when he comes out, he's talking about aliens. Like, clearly he has had thoughts on what's in the craft. Now, the catch becomes, regardless of what he thinks is in the craft, is that a person that is of this planet, that is in high technology, that he's just unaware of? Now, they would probably say, well, maybe on one occasion, but this data was over multiple occasions. I don't know, man. And this is the problem when you don't have a government that you can trust. There's nothing to trust. So, I'll leave this here. I may show Elizondo. I might. I have something I need to do tonight. But maybe. I'll think about it. Alright, guys. If you enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, guys.